Thank you so very much. It's an honor being here. Baseball, I tell you what, brings so many people together. Whether we all are here because we love the game, right? And we all come in all different shapes and sizes: small, big, tall, fat, uh, smart, stupid. You know, whether you're in the amateur world, the pro world, or both worlds, whether you're an umpire, a scout, broadcaster, cover the game on the writing side. It's just an incredible, incredible sport. Thank you for all being here because clearly you love it as much as I do, and it's a passion I developed when I was young. And how? Here's my story, real quick. First and foremost, Dom kind of took my thunder. I am so proud about my daughter, who's on her way. Obviously, she went to Northwestern University. She was a musical theater major, and now she's obviously shooting for the stars in that entertainment world, which is probably more difficult than the professional baseball world. So good luck. You're on a good start, at least with her show winning those 2 Emmys here recently. And my son, obviously, he loves the game. He's a better player than I was. He's playing in a Division I program, at Lafayette, and he's fighting his way through that world. And they opened down in Miami and NC State, I think, earlier. Obviously here as they start their 2026 campaign when the spring starts. So I look forward to. Thank God for ESPN Plus because in the job I got, I get to watch all their games on TV. But my story, I love the game, and I wanted to be a professional. But if and at the time, you know what, you can be a big fish in a small pond, and you start having those type of dreams until the higher the ladder you climb. I did grow up early in New York, so New York State Baseball Hall of Fame is kind of fitting. But so I was born in Long Island, then moved upstate to New York. My dad was a big standardbred horse person, and in fact, obviously now I'm in the New York State Baseball Hall of Fame. My father, John Cashman, is in the National Hall of Fame of the Trotter here out in Goshen, New York. So now we have two Cashmans in the state of New York for Hall of Fames. But so I'm really proud of what my dad did and the business he was in. So he took us to Kentucky. He wound up actually having the opportunity to be the general manager of the largest standardbred horse farm in the country at the time, Castleton Farms in Lexington, Kentucky. In fact, my first time I ever got a chance to meet was Jim Cott was down in at the Red Mile or at the Saturday, either the horse sales or at the Red Mile, one or the other. Yep, and he had just come off winning a world championship with the Cardinals, and I was this young and just starry-eyed looking up at this legend. And again, I've lived a Jimmy Stewart-type life, having a chance to come across some amazing people along the way. So I'm growing up in Kentucky. It's Reds country, big red machine country, and believe it or not, I was a huge Dodger fan. I grew up hating the Yankees. I really, really hated the Yankees. People don't know that, but I did. So to tie a baseball community together, so guess how I got started? People who took their credit for my start in the game. So when I was a young kid, my family was really tight with Ralph Branca, who I believe is an inductee, correct? So Ralph Branca was a dear family friend, and he got me to be bat boy for the Los Angeles Dodgers at Vero Beach at Holman Stadium down in spring training. So way, way before I started playing, baseball, I was a bat boy for the Dodgers, and I see Tommy Lasorda over there, not far from my picture in his Dodger uniform. And Tommy used to take a lot of credit for my start in the game. Ralph Branca and Ann Branca really, started my love of the game. I was bat boy in Holman Stadium, and years later, I'm not going to talk for 10 minutes, but years later, believe it or not, after I became GM of the New York Yankees, I was a Dodger every way, step of the floor until, like every good Yankee, you get bought and paid for. I had a chance to leave the Yankees to become GM of my childhood team. Frank McCourt owned the Dodgers. He offered. I'm working for a really hostile environment under George Steinbrenner, and Frank McCourt called me up and offered me a 5-year deal, doubling my salary. But the boss called me up, and I was going. And he called me up and he said, "Why are you leaving me?" And he said he wanted me to stay, and because I wouldn't even be standing here today if it wasn't for someone like that, I stayed. I didn't take the money. I foregoed all my childhood love, and I stayed to be loyal to the boss who made me what I was today. But let me turn the clock back. So, grew up loving the Dodgers, living in Kentucky. I played high school baseball for 2 years at Lexington Catholic High School, and I got sent away to a boarding school my final junior and senior year in D.C. because I was a little bit of a wild man. So they sent me away to get fixed, and so I wound up in Washington, D.C. my final 2 years. And, again, I did really well in high school, like a lot of us who play the game. There's a lot of bad players along the way that make you look really good. So I wound up having a chance to play college baseball. Stayed in the D.C. area. My college baseball coach is here today, Ross Natoli. So I played at Catholic University, and they were convincing me I was going to go to Tulane, and they kept convincing me I'm not going to play at Tulane. You're going to sit the bench. Catholic's building the program. We played mostly a Division I schedule back then. The whole world was different back then in the college ranks. You had like a 25-game fall schedule or something like that, and like a 40-plus game spring schedule. And we were Division III independent back then, but we played mostly a Division I schedule. I wouldn't go to Catholic now, Doc, because the teams aren't the same now we play. But today, back then I did, and I was like, you know what? And I played 4 straight years under Ross Natoli, who now, if you can stand up, Ross, I want you to stand, because Ross Natoli is still the head coach at Catholic University. His very first year was my first year, where I started for 4 years. I actually wound up having an all-time hit record for a little while when I was there, since broken. But he's one of 26 college baseball coaches that have got 800-plus wins at the same institution. Unfortunately, I didn't deliver a lot of those wins, but again, it was an amazing experience. And Doc taught me a lot about the game. I remember him constantly coaching, and we've heard a lot about people impacting your life, and Ross was one of them. He would always yell at us, or preach at us on a day, and the weather is, D.C. is no different than New York with the spring, the Northeast baseball weather. It's the rain, it's the cold, it's brutal, whether it's high school, whether it's college, and it's easy to cut corners, but he would say never cheat yourself. And it's like life lessons. Don't cheat yourself, because if you cheat yourself, and you cut corners now, it's going to affect you later. It's going to affect you in the games. It's going to affect you in a record. It's going to affect you in life. And I've always taken that to heart, and it served me well, because I remember one of the years, it must have been my freshman year, we're playing down in Florida. My dad is general manager and president of Castleton Farms. The owner of that farm was a guy named Frederick Van Lennep. He also owned Pompano Racetrack, so that was under my dad's umbrella. So we go down to Florida, and we're playing Princeton during the day at Little Fenway in Boca. And the night before that game, like a stupid college guy, wild still, remember I got sent away to boarding school. It didn't fix me. High-low card game. Back then, no cell phones, no ATMs. I'm playing, we get meal money, I get high-low card game, and I'm sitting there with a king and a 2, and I go all in with my meal money. I think we got 10 days on this trip. I lose it all. Here comes the ace. All my meal money gone for the rest of the trip. So I call home. Boca's near Pompano. So my dad says, go over to the track tomorrow night, we'll get you dinner. And this is how, this is like a surf analogy. You have no idea when these waves are going to come your way. So he said, go over to the track, we'll get you a free meal that night, because all these games are day games. We're playing on the college ranks in Florida. And we'll get you a meal, we'll get you some cash to finish you off on this trip. So I have dinner with this PR director named Alan Finkelson. He has a Yankee 77 or 78 World Series ring. He's got pictures of Yankees all over his office. So I said, I'm having dinner with him. And he said, what are you doing this summer? Well, first I said, where'd you get that ring? And he said, his best friend was George Steinbrenner. Now, the story of my connection with the boss has been my dad, but my dad's connection was Alan. Alan was one of his best friends. He had a World Series ring on from 77 or 78 that the boss gifted him. So we're talking, blah, 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 and he says, what are you going to do this summer? And I was going to play in the Shenandoah Valley Summer League in Virginia. And he goes, what if I can get you an internship with the New York Yankees? man, of course, what are you going to say there? I was like, yeah. I was like, well, I'd do that. So he goes, get me a letter. I'll get it over to my buddy in Tampa. So sure enough, I had my girlfriend in college at the time help me write a letter. And off it went to the boss. I still remember how she said, respectfully yours, have it signed that way. I'm like, okay, it sounds good, you know. So off it goes to the boss. And next thing you know, I get an internship at the old Yankee Stadium in 1986. I did minor league scouting department during the day and security at night. I remember I was in the farm department under Bobby Hoffman, who was a utility player for the old New York Giants. Joel Altobelli was on the major league coaching staff, and he would come up and Bobby would have like tomatoes and stuff cut up in the office, and Joel would come up from the coach's room, and we would sit, and that's how I got started. Brian Sabian was in the front office. Ray Negron, Tony Moranti, who was already introduced earlier, they were there in the offices back in the day. And I would do anything and everything that you would ask. Listen, I was just happy to be there. Here's Phil Rizzuto walking down the hallway, coming out of the broadcast booth. You got great players on the field. I think back then, whether it was Dave Winfield or Ricky Henderson, but it was a hostile work environment. I mean, it was a hostile work environment. They created human resource departments because of people like George Steinbrenner. It did not exist. I don't remember it like some of the other people older would remember, but I don't think they created HR departments until some of the tough ones like the boss came along. So it was part of my climbing experience, and it is not because I was some super whippersnapper that was smarter and better than anybody else. It was like next man up, next person up, guy, girl, whoever it was. People did not want to work there, or they'd quit, or they'd get fired, and it was like, you're next. And so it was a lot of upward mobility. So, and we all, the one thing about it was too, it was an opportunity to really do everything we can to, like my job, I felt like all I wanted to do was do the best I could so my boss wouldn't get fired. So I worked with Woody Woodward and Clyde King were I think the first combination of the GMs when they were there, and then Bob Quinn, Sid Thrift, Harding, Pete Peterson, managers Piniella, Bucky Dent, Stump Merrill, Showalter. I mean, it was just an assembly line. Billy Martin. Billy Martin was in our broadcast booth, and he would go down. I think Piniella was in our dugout, and I remember Billy constantly. And I was in the room. I was in so many of these rooms. Billy would be walking in second guessing Lou. I wouldn't have done that move, boss. Boss would be beating that up, trying to figure out, like, all right, how do we get Lou out of the dugout and get you back down there? I mean, it was incredible. You know what? Today it's like the Real Housewives of whether it's California or Atlanta or D.C. or New York. The New York Yankees back in the 80s, that was like the true Bravo Real Housewives because it was reality TV at its best. It really was. And I had a front row seat. But I learned a ton. I learned what to do and how to treat people, and I learned what not to do and how to treat people. And I learned a lot from the boss, who belongs in the Hall of Fame, by the way. He absolutely was a titan of industry. He did a lot of amazing things. He did a lot of things that weren't so great, but he demanded the attention of the entire sporting world in the Bronx on a day in and day out basis. He made sure people paid attention to that product, and at times it wasn't great. Things didn't play out perfectly, but he was constantly fighting for the next great player, the next great team he could try to put out there, and sometimes it would work, sometimes it wouldn't work, but I learned a ton from him, a ton from leadership, and I said some things that my takeaways were, this game is really hard. Now, although I didn't get a chance to play at the pro level, I have empathy and recognize how difficult the sport is. So that's why I've got 3 managers under my belt. I'm going on 28 years as a GM now. I've had 10 experienced years with Joe Torre. 2 were before me with Watson. I've got 10 years with Girardi, and now I've got, I don't know how many years going with Boone right now. And people, it's so quick. You see in these college football world about these coaches getting whacked left and right. Right? They get a few games under their belt or a season that doesn't go or gets away from you. sports are hard, and they're whacking these guys and paying these numbers. I can't believe it. You know what? It's like two prize fighters going at it. You got a great team. They got a great team. Someone's going to lose, but that doesn't mean someone's got to pay. If you got good quality people that are doing everything that they possibly can, and you look at what's the alternative, then you don't have that quick trigger finger that I know the boss had it. We lost great people like Pat Gillick along the way. Pinello was a great manager that we let walk out the door. Dick Hauser. There's so many quality people that because people want to change the sheet so quick, they wind up doing great somewhere else. That's not the world I want to have. I want to make sure that we have great players, great people, and do everything we can to put out a good product that people think can win. So the reason I'm here today is we've had amazing players, and I'm on the fact the fact that I've been the GM this long is because the Steinbrenner family has allowed us to have great players with great teams. Catalanato, I think wherever you are, I probably couldn't get you because I think was Cano playing second. We had somebody here. That's the one thing. I only got so many guys on the roster. I know Joe Panic. I've tried to get a lot. Sabes wouldn't give him up, for a period of time. I think it was Sabes, but I remember I was like, it's so funny along the way where like I tried to get this guy, I tried to get that guy. The agent wouldn't let it happen. The agent wanted too much, whoever. So who was your agent? All right. And Alan Neer. All right. So I was trying to connect because now 27 years I remember all these different things. But ultimately, it's like a Jimmy Stewart world of life right now. I've had an amazing run of experience that are on the shoulders of everybody around me. My superpower is I've hired people smarter than me and let them do their job, and I try to shine a light on when we do well, and I'll try to take the hits when we do badly. So we're still at it. I'm not giving up. I'm a competitor, and Yankee baseball, we always want to be relevant. We always want to try to do the best we possibly can with the championship around the corner. I've got 5, but I honestly feel like we should have more, and that's the effort. That's always what we're going to try to do. So I appreciate you guys thinking about me and inducting me in the Hall of Fame. So.